Hey guys, I'm Tom. I played Purple in our 3v3 team event. It was in Mansfield, right?
Yeah, we were in Mansfield.
Yeah, I played Purple Luffy. This list I played. Start with the leader. There's a really good one-of in the deck. Came through with me most games. If you're at 0 Don, or if you're at 3 or more Don, you may add the top card of your life to your hand. Ramp 1 Don from your deck is active, which essentially means you just get to play on a faster curve than any other deck in the format, and you draw 2 cards a turn. That's the real crazy part. So I have a list. Played 4 copies of the Law Searcher. Obvious reasons. Helps you find everything you need. Basically every card in the deck, except quite frustratingly the best card in the deck, Giant. Yeah, like a hand that opens is pretty good, especially into stuff like Blackbeard, where you can use this to check Lafitte or Q and stuff like that for free. Also, it just comes up occasionally to have like that small body. Do wish it could add Kid Pirates though whenever I go second. And then we're playing 2 copies of the Nico Robbins blocker. This card is quite good in most of my Shanks games because Shanks doesn't really have a good way to remove this without committing too much Don. Like the most efficient thing is they can play that 3 cost that stops this from being a blocker, but that makes one of their swings 3k smaller, which means still getting value out of that. It's better than if you just had that 1k in hand. And also normally it means they can't just slam a 10 drop and swing over one of your guys. It's also quite good in the mirror to stop someone doing the same thing in the mirror. Just slamming it down their own big thing and trying to swing over your big things. Then we have Usohachi. 4 copies obviously. Greatest purple 2k in the game. Also sometimes it does have the text, yeah I win, written on it. Occasionally, like against Tokyo, I will play this to turn that board sideways so I can actually swing at it if like I'm worried they could potentially push lethal. Oh, that's so good. Why did they print this? Such a good card. Then moving into the forecast, got 2 copies of Bonclay, who I didn't actually have this in the list until right before we started the event, but on Monday I played basically the same list, except this was the vanilla Usopp, and I lost to a Shanks at the locals. And I put this in because this card is crazy into Shanks. If you can establish like a 9k body on the board and then put this in a blocker down, you make it impossible for a Shanks player to play like the 10 cost with Rush, because if they do, they won't clear your big thing because you have the blocker, and also they'll just be giving you another massive swing because you have the Bonclay. And then if you position yourself right, you can threaten lethal with that, so they can never play a 10 cost into you, unless it's the 10 cost that removes stuff, but they only play 1 of that. It's also really good in the mirror. If you have to go second, you can ramp up to 5, play this down, go to 6, then on the next turn you'll go to 8 naturally, and you can later fit up to 9, and you can slam a 9 cost in response to a Luffy Taro play, which is still not great for you, but it's like, if they Luffy Taro after you've done this, you get an 8k swing off this, and then you have your like hopefully 9 cost 10k rusher to swing back at them, and it lets you actually pressure them back a bit in response. And it slows them down because they have to check this, so like if they didn't save all, they have to waste a swing on this, and then because you got your 9 drop out a bit faster, you can then next turn start clearing their Luffy Taro, start clearing their Sangaros and stuff with it. 4 copies of Zorojuro. This card's crazy. On play, looks the top 5 cards for a Straw Hat. Not excluding itself, which is the most nuts part, because sometimes you'll just go like Zorojuro into Zorojuro. Like in Lucci matchups, half the time I go for this over Sangaro off of Luffy Taro, because the fact this can find you another one or another Luffy Taro, so you can just do it again to really establish board is really crazy. And also into decks like Shanks and Dofi, where you need to be able to like guard your hand, you can just slam these down and your hand size doesn't go down at all, but you develop board. And for that reason, it's just nuts. Then got 2 copies of Queen Blocker, which I blatantly stole this from that guy at Orlando. We tried out his list for a bit, and he's just kind of right when he says that this is better than Onami. They both draw you 2 cards and discard 1 card, but the fact that this is 5 cost matters sometimes into certain decks where it's harder for them to like tap down, like into yellow, you can't Amari this, but then also the fact that it's 6k, so if you can live through a turn with this, you can then pressure back with it. is really good, which is something you just can't do with Onami, which is a spoiler. We're not playing Onami either. And then for 2Ks, we got 3 copies of Inosuke for one of the 2K slots for one of the other 2K slots we're playing. This thing is surprisingly good to play. Like a couple games into Lucci and testing, like playing Luffy Taro to play this, to swing this, was not a bad play going second. Also, especially if they put that 2-cost Uta down that you can't kill with leader, just having like a small rush guy that you can poke at it and then not have to like give up too much of your pressure that you're actually putting on them, because you need to be fast into Lucci and you need to be hitting them hard. It's just a 2K that has rush, and sometimes that's all you need, especially against Flatbed. You can cheese game against Flatbed so easily with this if they just forget it exists and they turn all their blockers sideways or they got no cards left. You can just go, yep, play this, all done on this, give up your entire hand, or lose again. Then we have 4 copies of Sangro. This card's pretty nuts if he stays on the board. He doesn't really stay on the board that often though, is the issue. His effect is when attacking, if you have 8 or more Don, you get to draw a card. Into certain matchups, this guy is just kind of pointless. Lucci, especially, like if you put this down, it does not stay. You do not get that draw, which is why, like I said earlier, I just favor going for the Zorodoro because you get that immediate advantage off it. Whereas this, like if it has to live a turn, sometimes it's a bit slow. It can also be a similar thing into Shanks, where Shanks can sometimes, they can just remove this before you actually get any value off it. In those matchups where you know you can put this down and you know it will stick, it's really good. Really don't like playing it on 5 going second, but sometimes that's what you gotta do. It's mostly here to be played off Luffy Taro. And then 4 copies of Kid Blocker. This card is crazy. This is the best card when you have to go second. The reason we don't like going second over going first, it normally messes up it gives our opponent normally a better curve to play against us into, and also the fact they get to be more aggressive on us because they get to swing first. Overall it means you have to counter a bit earlier, and being able to put down a 6k blocker on your first turn to help deal with that, and then also the fact it means that when you don't minus, you aren't really don't minusing, so you don't have to as aggressively use the leader effect and go to as little life. Really helps you when you have to go second, especially into something like Dopey, because if they just hit you and you have to like if they go really aggressive at you early, your options are to like get rid of your entire hand to play around pudding, or take a bunch of damage and then get risked just losing because they had pudding. So like a blocker that can normally get you out of one of those 5Ks, or can be just having one of your 2Ks to deal with like the leader 7K swing, is really helpful. Then the last 2K is we have 4 copies of the 2K Sanji. The effect to reduce its cost very rarely comes up. It only really comes up in the mirror. Like I had one game where I could have played it off of Luffy Taro because I was at 8 and my opponent was at 10, so I could have gone like Luffy Taro, go down to 7, play this. But then it swung and they gianted themselves back down to 8, so that play went out the window quite quickly. But yeah, just sometimes you need a blocker, and playing this, like you can always go pay 6 for this, leave 1 up for giant, use your other 3 Dom to like do like, I don't know, make a Zoro 7, make a leader 7, swing with something else you control, and block a giant. You can't die through that. It feels like very few decks can actually kill you through that kind of setup, so that's why we just have to play enough blockers, and it's a blocker that's essential to get. And like half the playable Straw Hats are Sanji for some reason. This card is one of the best cards that this deck got to help it deal with aggro decks, because that is where we really struggle, is decks like Bello Betty and Dopey. Like aggro decks are not fun when you essentially are not allowed to take hits, you have to counter out of everything. The fact that this will allow you to tap down board and be aggressive into their board before they get a chance to swing with certain things is really good for starving them and denying them resources and making them waste their hand to keep their board. It also is it also stops them from just doing that play where they leave their entire board active to like try and kill you next turn by going like 6 swings. You can play one of these and at least mitigate that a little bit, which especially like on turn you can do that plus Robin blocker plus giant, and you will be like it, like I said before, giant plus blocker is very hard to kill you through, as long as you've still got like 1 or 2 life. And yeah, the 7 plus that 2 and that 1, it's just a perfect kind of number. Then we have 4 copies of Luffy because this is the greatest purple card ever printed. This, like every good Straw Hat card that I've gone over, this just plays them out in your hand, with the exception of like the 7-cost Sanji. It's like, this is so good for establishing pressure into decks like Lucci where you really need to. Like, my plan into Lucci is to try and get 2 of these down as quickly as possible with 2 things next to them, because it's very rare that they clear Luffy plus the thing you play, so it means you'll always be establishing board even into a deck with that good removal. It's also so versatile in fact, like that small run blocker you can play off this if you really need to like establish board, but you also want that blocker and you want to still be a bit aggressive, but you can't like afford to go 7-2. This is just so good and so versatile in everything you can do with it. We have 3 copies of Linlin. This card is kind of mid in all honesty. It's like certain matchups, this will be in your hand, you go, I hate this card. This is like the most discarded card for Giant I've ever seen. Whereas like in the mirror, terrible. Against Shanks, terrible. Against Lucci, terrible. But then it's like, oh, against Bella Betty and Dofi, have to see it. So you can't really drop it. The ability to heal, obviously, like, it's good in those matchups because you take your life, they're very aggressive, you want that bit of extra, and also it controls their board. Against decks like Bay and Dofi, your plan is to starve them, so giving them a bunch of life, you don't care. It's like, because once they've got 2 cards in hand, they're not guarding like the 7, like all the swings you're going to throw at them from your board. So you put them from like on no board and you control the game like that, right? And this is just good for that. And then obviously 9k is bigger than everything they play and it swings over everything for free essentially. And then 3 copies of Monkey D. Luffy. This card is the opposite of Linlin, where this is good into every matchup that Linlin isn't. It really is the coin flip of like aggro decks. This is fine. Everything else, this is so good. Like if you can play 2 of these into Lucci, you can play 2 of these into Lucci before they can realistically play a Moria that will remove 1, and then you're quite good to be in on them. Like, because dealing with multiple 10k swings every turn is something that they don't want to deal with. Also, that you just get the card back, so you're not like you get to be aggressive with this, and your hand doesn't even go down at all. And it's a 9 cost, which is perfect for the last card in the deck and the best card ever printed. 4 copies of Gum Gum Giant. This card is counter event, Dominance 2, draft 1 card from your hand. You gain plus 9k power and draw 2 cards, so long as your leader is a Straw Hat leader. This card is so crazy, so far, even if you don't have this card in your hand, you just leaving 1 Donna forces people to play around it, and playing around it means you normally have to swing very weird numbers than you normally would. Like people suddenly stop going like 777, they start going 99999. They're committing a lot more Don to things, which then means like one of their swings might end up just being a bit easier for you to get out of, and also it might just be in your life. But the fact that it says draw 2 is crazy as well, because like I was getting at earlier with Linlin, like cards like Linlin's not great into every matchup, so just being able to like filter this card away, get 2 new ones, and look for like the pieces that you want for specific matchups. Like if you're, like I said, like into Dofi, you want the Sanji. If you're not seeing it, you can giant quite aggressively to try and draw for it. Also, that's like I've been saying with a lot of the blockers, if you have one of these in your hand and a blocker on your board, you basically cannot die unless your opponent's board is like crazy. But yeah, that was the list that I played for the 3v3. And
what matchups did you play during the day?
So I got quite lucky in that I didn't have to play any Dofis or Bella Betties, but we did a lot. I did practice into them quite a bit. But my round 1 was a Shanks, which was fine. Like so long as you're aggressive enough into Shanks where you don't give them the room to play a 10 cost, you are normally fine. And then my round 2 was into the mirror, where I had to go second into the mirror. That kind of like I was saying with the Bonclays, I made sure to get a 9 cost out before then, and then just use that to like poke at their board, and like eventually my board was ahead of theirs, and and then you can push ahead from there. And then after that, I had to play another Shanks. Same as the first one. Like if you can get the board down before they can start threatening you with multiple 10 costs, yeah, you'll win. And then my last round was the mirror again, where I got to go first at the time, and it's much easier going first in the mirror. In that game, I did just have like the perfect cut of Zoro into Luffy and into like another Zoro into the 9-drop, and it's quite hard to come back in the mirror in that case if you have to go second when they do all that, if you don't have like specific tech cards to try and get back into it. And that was Swiss. First round top cut, I had to play the Shanks I played in the first round of Swiss again. Just lost out just a bit at the end where I didn't see any giants that game, and I wasn't able to keep more than just a 9-cost Luffy on the board by the time I was going for that turn to try and push for a game, and just couldn't do it, and they managed to get like a 10-cost with a couple of Rayleighs next to it and clear my board, and like, yeah, it's hard to come back from that kind of position. And then final round I had to play purple Luffy mirror again, but I was higher seeded, so I got to pick to go first. It was the same one as 4th round, and kind of just a repeat of the 4th round, where had the curve. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Thankfully I didn't have to play into Bay. Hate playing into Bay so much. Overall, it was a good day of games. Like, I was very proud of how I played, and I'm very proud of the list. I don't think there's anything I changed with it. Not that it's perfect, there probably is bad things too, but I overall have not had any like noticeable problems with it.
Yeah, and what would you say to all the sim statistics that say purple Luffy loses like however many matchups, or that like not going first is unfavored into everything?
I went first once in Swiss and was undefeated, so you can play going second. It's not like the difference is if you go first and you do see like Law, Zoro, Luffy Taro, and you just see everything, yeah, that's crazy. But when you go second, you can't, like, you have a lot of plays still, you just don't have plays that perfect, and I think people just need a bit more time to like get used to having to play going second. Yeah, when you have to go second into things, you have to really identify what your win con is into this deck, how you're going to progress. Because I think one of the big issues, and I noticed this with like with the 2 purple Luffys I played against, is so purple Luffy, the reason I really like this deck is it's really versatile in how you can choose to play it. You can either choose to go really aggressive at face, or you can choose to play really slow and starve your opponent and like drag the game out as long as possible. And it's knowing what matchups that's really important. Like in one of my mirrors that I played, someone used the 9-cost Linden to heal me and to heal himself, while I already had my own 9-cost on the board, and I thought when they did, I was like, you've just made it harder for you to like push through my established board, like, because I at that point thought I'm too ahead for you to really like try and come back on board. You kind of have to just play aggro now. They played this, which plays into the other strategy. I think it's a case of, as people get better at identifying what their win con is into every matchup and how that win con might change as the matchup plays out, that's when like I think like the stats on the sim will get a bit better hopefully, because I love this deck. I want it to do really well. I love this deck since like set 7 when we got all the star deck stuff announced, and I started learning how to play it then.
Alright, well, thank you for the list, and congratulations once again for winning the 3v3.
Cool, thanks.
Right, bye.